Imagine standing at the edge of death. The sea has swallowed everyone around you. A single hand reaches into the darkness, not to judge you, but to save you. And in that sacred moment, you choose a lie, not because you are evil, because your ego cannot bear the weight of saying, I don't know. Most people believe strength is appearing wise. The ancient masters believed the opposite. A true warrior never fears ignorance. He fears pretending, because every false identity demands another lie. Every lie builds another mask, and every mask pulls the spirit farther away from truth. The old Zen teachers warned that the greatest prison has no walls. It is the prison of the image we desperately protect. Today's story begins with a shipwreck, but it ends with a lesson that has drowned far greater men than storms ever could. This is not merely the tale of a monkey and a dolphin. It is the story of every human being who values appearance over presence, ego over discipline, and performance over truth. Only one path leads to mastery. The path begins the moment you are finally brave enough to say, I do not know. There is an old saying among the warriors of ancient Japan. You can't tell how strong a sword is just by looking at it. Only a real battle shows its true strength. People are no different. Anyone can look confident when life is easy. Anyone can sound smart when no one challenges them. Anyone can seem strong when everything is going well. But when hard times come, people begin to show who they really are. That is where our story begins. Not on calm waters. Not under a bright, peaceful sky. But in the middle of a terrible storm. The sea had become wild and frightening. Dark clouds covered the sky until it was almost impossible to tell where the sky ended and the ocean began. The wind howled loudly as huge waves crashed against the ship. The ship creaked under the pressure. Wood cracked. Ropes snapped. Passengers grabbed anything they could to stay alive. The rich merchant, the respected teacher, the experienced sailor, the cheerful entertainer. At that moment, they were all the same. Fear doesn't care how rich or important you are. Nature doesn't care about your reputation. It doesn't recognize your job title or social status. When your life is in danger, everyone becomes equally vulnerable. Modern science helps explain why this happens. When your brain senses serious danger, it switches into survival mode. The part of your brain that worries about what people think becomes less important. Your basic survival instincts take over. For a short time, you become exactly who you truly are. Nothing more. Nothing less. The ancient Stoic philosophers understood this long before modern science. They believed that difficult times don't create your character. They simply reveal the character you already have. Then, the worst happened. A giant wave, taller than the ship itself, rose from the dark sea. It slammed into the ship with incredible force. The deck broke apart. Wood flew everywhere. The sea swallowed the ship. People screamed. Some reached out for help, but grabbed only empty water. Animals ran in every direction, confused and terrified. Within minutes, the ship was gone. The ocean was filled with broken pieces of wood and the fading cries of those who had been on board. Slowly, the screams faded. Only pieces of the wreckage floated on the water. Among them was an unexpected survivor, a monkey. During the journey, he had entertained the passengers with funny tricks. People laughed at him. They clapped for him. They fed him because he made them smile. His importance depended on having people watching him. But now, there was no audience. No applause, no stage. Only an endless ocean in every direction. For the first time in his life, he was completely alone. This is where many people truly meet themselves. Not when life is going well, not during happy celebrations, but when they are alone. Because silence asks questions that noise never does. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you when your success is gone? Who are you when your achievements disappear? Who are you when no one applauds your performance? Ancient Zen masters often removed students from comfortable surroundings. They swept temples, carried water, cut wood, sat for hours without speaking. The purpose was never punishment. It was purification. When distraction disappears, identity begins to reveal itself. The monkey floated desperately, fighting exhaustion. His arms grew heavier. His breathing became shorter. Each wave stole more strength. Death approached quietly. Then, something extraordinary appeared beneath the surface. A dolphin. Throughout ancient Greece, dolphins were symbols of compassion. Stories described them rescuing drowning sailors and guiding lost travelers back to shore. Whether every story was literally true matters less than what they represented. Grace, unexpected help, a second chance. The dolphin circled once, then looked carefully at the struggling figure. From beneath the waves, the monkey's outline resembled that of a human being. Without hesitation, the dolphin swam underneath him, gently lifting him onto its back. No questions, no conditions, no judgment, only action. Real strength rarely announces itself. It simply serves. This is another forgotten lesson of the warrior. Power is not measured by domination. It is measured by protection. The strongest spirit becomes a shelter for others. Psychologists studying compassion have discovered something remarkable. Acts of selfless help activate reward pathways in the brain, strengthening emotional resilience in both the giver and the receiver. Compassion is not weakness. It is one of nature's deepest forms of strength. The dolphin continued swimming. Each powerful movement pushed them closer to land. The monkey slowly regained his breath. His heart no longer raced with panic. Life had been returned to him. Imagine that moment. Everything you owned, gone. Everyone you knew, gone. Every certainty, washed away. Only one truth remained. You are alive. Many people believe survival automatically changes a person. It does not. Transformation is never forced upon us. It is offered. Some accept it. Others rebuild the same prison using different materials. The monkey had just received something priceless. A second beginning. The universe had stripped away every role he once played. Performer, entertainer, favorite attraction. Those identities had sunk with the ship. Now he had a choice. He could become someone new, or he could desperately search for another mask. This choice exists inside every crisis we experience. The loss of a career, a failed relationship, financial collapse, illness, public embarrassment. These moments feel like endings, but often they are invitations. The ancient samurai understood this deeply. They practiced contemplating death, not because they wished to die, but because imagining the end allowed them to release illusions. If everything vanished tomorrow, what would remain? Not possessions, not reputation, not applause, only character, only discipline, only spirit. The dolphins swam in silence. The sea gradually became calmer. The shoreline appeared as a thin line on the horizon. Safety was no longer impossible. It was visible. The monkey should have felt gratitude. He should have rested quietly, allowing humility to replace fear. He should have recognized that life had given him mercy he did not earn. But the ego is patient. It survives storms. It survives failure. Sometimes it even survives miracles. Instead of asking himself, how have I been given another chance? A different question quietly formed inside him. Who will people think I am when I reach the shore? That single thought would become far more dangerous than the storm itself, because the fiercest battles are rarely fought against the world. They are fought within the silent chambers of our own mind. And as the shore drew closer, another journey was just beginning, not across the sea, but through the hidden depths of pride. The sea had grown quiet. The waves that had once roared with fury now rolled gently beneath the morning light. The shoreline of Athens stood in the distance, calm and inviting. The danger seemed over, but the greatest battles rarely begin in chaos. They begin in comfort. The dolphin continued swimming with steady strength, carrying the monkey toward safety. He expected nothing in return. No praise, no reward, no recognition. That is the nature of true service. Like the ancient warrior who protects the village without asking for his name to be remembered, the dolphin acted because compassion was part of his character, not a performance. There is an old Zen teaching. When the bamboo is full, it bows. The greater its strength, the greater its humility. Modern psychology echoes this wisdom. Researchers studying intellectual humility have found that people who are willing to admit what they do not know actually learn faster, make better decisions, and build stronger relationships. Confidence grounded in truth creates growth. Confidence built on illusion eventually collapses. The monkey, however, knew nothing of this. His breathing had steadied. His fear had faded. And as fear disappeared, the ego returned. That is often how the mind works. In moments of danger, survival becomes our only concern. But once safety returns, the brain begins rebuilding identity. It starts asking questions like, how do I appear? What do others think of me? Do I look important? These questions seem harmless, Yet they have led countless people away from the path of wisdom. The dolphin broke the silence. His voice was calm, gentle, without accusation. "You are from Athens, aren't you?" It was a simple question, not a test. Not a trap, just conversation between two travelers moving toward land. The monkey knew the truth. He had never lived in Athens. He knew almost nothing about the city. One honest sentence could have ended the matter. "No, I've never been there." Simple, clean, truthful. But honesty often feels expensive to an insecure ego. The monkey hesitated. Only for a heartbeat. Then he smiled. "Yes," he replied confidently. "I'm from Athens." The lie floated into the air as effortlessly as a feather. Small, almost harmless, or so it seemed. This is how deception usually begins. Not with enormous lies, but with tiny compromises. One sentence spoken to protect an image. One exaggeration to avoid embarrassment. One false story to gain admiration. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned that a person who begins lying to others eventually loses the ability to recognize the truth within themselves. Every lie requires another lie to defend it, like adding bricks to a wall that slowly blocks out reality. The dolphin nodded. He showed no suspicion, no judgment. He simply continued swimming. Several moments passed in peaceful silence. Then he asked another question. "If you're from Athens, you must know Piraeus." The monkey froze inside. Piraeus, the great harbor of Athens, a place every true resident would know. But the monkey had never heard the name before. He had a choice, perhaps the most important choice of his life. He could pause, take a breath, and simply say, "I'm sorry, I don't know." 5 words capable of saving him. But those words felt heavier than stone, because admitting ignorance feels like defeat to a prideful mind. Yet ancient warriors understood something different. The beginner is never weak. The beginner is free. He is free to learn, free to listen, free to grow. Only the arrogant imprison themselves inside certainty. Scientists call this the Dunning-Kruger effect, a well-documented cognitive bias where people with little knowledge often overestimate their understanding, while those with genuine expertise tend to recognize how much remains unknown. The ancient sages observed the same pattern long before science gave it a name. The fool believes he has arrived. The master knows the journey never ends. The monkey felt his heart begin to race again. Not because of the sea, but because of exposure. Fear had changed its shape. He was no longer afraid of drowning. He was afraid of being discovered. So the mind did what fearful minds often do. It invented certainty. "Of course I know Piraeus," the monkey laughed. The words came quickly now. Too quickly. He and I go way back. The dolphin remained silent. His steady rhythm through the water never changed. Silence can be unsettling. Many people rush to fill it because silence reflects the truth back to us. The monkey mistook the dolphin's silence for belief. Encouraged, he continued. "In fact, he's my cousin." The story grew larger. He became Lord Mayor. The monkey smiled proudly, convinced he had protected his image. But wisdom rarely argues. It observes. The dolphin did not interrupt. He did not accuse. He simply listened. True mentors rarely expose us through force. They allow our own words to reveal who we are. Think about the finest teachers you have ever known, the wisest leaders, the calmest parents, the greatest masters. They seldom shouted. They asked questions, because questions uncover what lectures cannot. Zen masters were famous for asking simple questions that shattered years of illusion. Who are you without your name? What remains when thought becomes quiet? Where is the self you keep defending? These questions were never meant to embarrass. They were invitations. The dolphin's question carried that same quiet power, not because he wished to trap the monkey, but because truth naturally reveals itself. Meanwhile, the shoreline grew larger. The scent of earth replaced the smell of open sea. Birds circled overhead. Safety was only moments away. Ironically, the monkey had never been closer to land, yet never farther from himself. This is the tragedy of borrowed wisdom. Some people collect impressive quotes. Others memorize sacred texts. Some speak fluently about discipline, presence, mindfulness, and mastery. But borrowed knowledge is not lived wisdom. A sword hanging on the wall cannot win a battle. A book sitting on a shelf cannot transform a soul. Truth must be practiced before it becomes part of your spirit. The monkey wanted the appearance of wisdom without the discipline required to earn it. That desire exists today more than ever. We live in an age where people can sound informed after watching a few short videos, where confidence is often rewarded more quickly than character, where appearances travel faster than truth. Yet reality has remarkable patience. It never rushes. It simply waits. Eventually, every mask becomes too heavy to wear. Every performance reaches its final act. Every false identity meets a question it cannot answer. The dolphin had already reached that moment. He knew exactly what the monkey's words revealed. But he said nothing. Not yet. Because the deepest lessons are never shouted. They are allowed to unfold. And as the shoreline came within reach, the weight of borrowed wisdom was about to become heavier than the sea itself. The shore was now only a few strokes away. Sunlight broke through the clouds for the first time since the storm. The sea, once violent and merciless, had become almost perfectly still. To anyone watching from a distance, it would have looked like a peaceful ending. But appearances often hide the greatest turning points. The monkey sat proudly upon the dolphin's back. He believed he had succeeded. He had survived the storm. He had hidden his ignorance. He had protected his image. Or so he thought. There is a dangerous illusion that follows every unchecked lie. It whispers, "You got away with it." But truth is unlike human judgment. It does not hurry. It does not panic. It simply waits. The ancient Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote that a person's soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts. Every repeated deception leaves a stain, not always visible to others, but always visible to the one living inside it. The dolphin finally slowed his pace. His voice remained calm. There was no anger, no frustration, only quiet certainty. "So," he asked, "tell me more about your cousin." The monkey smiled. His confidence had become almost effortless now. That is the strange power of ego. The longer it survives, the more believable it becomes to the person protecting it. "Oh, Piraeus?" He laughed. "Everyone knows him. We grew up together. He became Lord Mayor because our family is well respected." Each sentence carried him farther away from reality. Each boast demanded another. Each invention required another invention to support it. This is the architecture of false identity. It is never built with one lie. It is built brick by brick, mask upon mask, until the builder forgets what his own face once looked like. Modern neuroscience offers an interesting insight. The brain is remarkably adaptable. When we repeat a story often enough, even an untrue one, it begins to feel familiar. And familiarity can be mistaken for truth. This is why repeated self-deception is so dangerous. Eventually, we stop lying to others. We begin lying to ourselves. The monkey was no longer performing only for the dolphin. He was performing for his own mind, trying to convince himself that the image he had created was real. The dolphin looked toward the shoreline, then back at the monkey. Finally, he spoke. "Piraeus is not a man." The words were soft, almost whispered. "It is the harbor of Athens." Silence. The world seemed to stop moving. The wind disappeared. Even the waves felt still. In that single moment, every lie collapsed. The monkey opened his mouth. No words came. For the first time since the storm, he faced something more terrifying than death. Truth. Not the truth spoken by another person. The truth reflected back at himself. He saw it all at once. The unnecessary lie, the fragile pride, the desperate need to appear important. He realized that no one had forced him into deception. The dolphin had never tried to humiliate him. The questions had been simple. The opportunity for honesty had been present from the beginning. His suffering had not been created by ignorance. It had been created by ego. This is one of the oldest lessons in every tradition of wisdom. In Zen, the empty cup can be filled. The full cup cannot receive another drop. In Stoicism, the wise person seeks truth, not applause. In the way of the samurai, honor is not the absence of failure. Honor is the refusal to live falsely. The dolphin closed his eyes for a brief moment. There was sadness in his silence. Because compassion without truth becomes permission. To carry the monkey safely to shore while rewarding dishonesty would teach the wrong lesson. Real mentors do not protect our illusions. They protect our potential. Sometimes, the kindest act feels like the hardest one. Without another word, the dolphin dipped beneath the surface. Slowly, deliberately, the monkey lost his balance. His hands reached into empty air. Then, the sea reclaimed him. Cold water closed around his body. He struggled wildly. Not against the dolphin, against reality. But reality cannot be wrestled into submission. The more he fought, the more exhausted he became. This time there was no second rescue. Not because mercy had disappeared, but because the lesson had arrived. The ancient Japanese have a concept called makoto, sincerity. It means that your words, your heart, and your actions become one. Nothing hidden, nothing exaggerated, nothing performed. When those three parts align, a person becomes unshakable, not because they know everything, but because they no longer fear the truth. Think about our own lives. How often do we pretend to understand something we don't? How often do we nod instead of asking a question? How often do we build an identity around appearing intelligent, successful, fearless, or spiritually mature? Social media rewards appearance. The modern world often celebrates certainty, but wisdom has never belonged to the loudest voice. It belongs to the most honest one. The strongest warrior is not the one who wins every argument. It is the one who can calmly say, "I was wrong. I don't know. Teach me." Those words sound small, yet they require extraordinary courage. Because the ego experiences humility as death, but the spirit experiences humility as freedom. The monkey drowned long before he entered the water. He drowned the moment he chose image over truth. The sea merely revealed what had already happened inside him. The dolphin, meanwhile, disappeared beneath the waves, carrying no hatred in his heart, only understanding. For he knew that nature itself follows an ancient law. Every false thing eventually falls. Every borrowed mask eventually breaks. Every illusion eventually meets reality. And every soul must one day choose between protecting its ego or walking the quiet path of transformation. So the next time life asks you a question you cannot answer, pause, breathe, stand in the silence. Do not fear the words, "I don't know." Those 4 words are not the language of weakness. They are the first steps on the path to mastery. Because the warrior who embraces truth gains something no storm can wash away: a spirit anchored in humility, a mind disciplined by presence, and a life guided not by ego, but by the quiet strength of authenticity.